Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 15 4 key game picks. Before my quick thoughts on week number 15, let's take a look at the current playoff picture. In the AFC, the Patriots have regained the first seed by virtue of losses from Denver and Cincinnati. The Bengals go to the 2 seed, the Broncos are the 3rd seed. The Colts still clinging on to the 4th seed, still leading their division. The Chiefs are the 5th seed, and the Jets are the 6th seed. Those two teams pretty much remain in that playoff hunt. Teams like the Steelers, Raiders, Bills, Texans, and Jaguars are not that far behind them. They're still in the hunt. In the NFC, Panthers 13 and Panthers still undefeated at 13 and 0. They're still the overall number 1 seed. The Cardinals are the 2nd seed. The Packers are the 3rd seed. The Redskins still clinging on to the 4th seed, with the Seahawks clinging on to the 5th seed as the Vikings the 6th seed. Teams like the Buccaneers, the Falcons, the Eagles, the Giants, and the Rams are still in the hunt. Week 14 thoughts. Obviously, injuries are starting to become the norm in the NFL. Big ones, in fact. Andy Dalton, fractured thumb. Who knows if he's going to be back? Who knows if he's going to be playing for the rest of the season? But by looks of it, AJ McCarron is going to be the quarterback for that team. So that, depending on what happens with the Bengals, it's not looking good. They could lose the overall 2nd seed and first round bye. Remember, them and the Broncos are the 2 and 3 seeds right now at the moment, and they will meet up pretty soon. I think it's next week. I think in week 16. So that's going to become a determining factor here in who gets the first round bye and who will have to play a wild card game between those two teams. It's obvious they're not going to catch the Patriots. I see the Patriots winning their remaining games. They're pretty much going to be locked for the number 1 seed unless some amazing upset happens in that AFC conference. I just don't see it happening. Denver and Cincy blew their chances to keep the Patriots from getting home field advantage, but by looks of it, because both teams lost, the Patriots pretty much have clinched the number 1 seed. I don't see any reason why the Patriots will lose another game because they want home field advantage. The Super Bowl in the to road to the Super Bowl in the AFC will have to go through New England. I just don't see them losing that 1 seed. But in the NFC, in terms of other injuries, Blunt for the Patriots on season-ending IR. Tough to say if that's official. His season is over or not. We'll wait and see. I mean, I know the Patriots still hasn't got some key players still out, but they did get Gronkowski back last Sunday, and pretty much he's fine, and that's a good sign for the Patriots. Other injuries, Seattle's rookie running back, I forgot his name, Darwin or something. Darwin, I think, or Larvin, wherever his name is. He's done for the year. That hurts Seattle's running game big time, especially when you already have Marshawn Lynch out on injured reserve. So that pretty much now puts the running game in serious question for the Seahawks, especially when they're trying to cling to the 5th seed, because by looks of it, they are not going to catch the Cardinals in that NFC West division. But the way things are looking right now, in the AFC, it's starting to somewhat be more clear. NFC still a bit of a question right now because of the NFC East, and it will all come down to that final weekend in the NFC North between Green Bay and Minnesota. As far as the other games, well, not pretty much everything is all related now to the playoff picture. That's pretty much all I'm going to say in terms of what happened in week 14. But now let's quickly get into week 15, shall we? A lot of games that I did want to talk about because a lot of them have big time playoff implication. It was very, very tough to pick which ones I wanted to talk about. But I think the games that I'm going to talk about right here, I think are plenty fair enough. I do the best I can to try to talk about your team or whatever, as sort of a reward. But it's very hard because the idea of my videos is to only post up 4 games. And what are those 4 games? Let's get into it. All right. Key game number 1 for week 15. It is the Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts. Now the odds makers have this line as no lines or off. So for the time being, because the time of this video, for the moment, I cannot give you any lines for this game because the odds makers did not post up any lines yet for this game. But probably by tomorrow or maybe Thursday or Friday, depending on as the time of this video, you should be able to see who there will be a favorite in this game, no question about it. But anyways, talking about these two teams now, the Indianapolis Colts shot themselves in the foot, losing big to the Jaguars. But of course, a lot of it now, a lot of questions right now on Indianapolis whether Matt Hasselbeck, in terms of his health, is a big concern right now. And I mean, I think in both quarterbacks for both teams, the Texans and the Colts. I mean, Hoyer, he had concussion protocol last Sunday against the Patriots, and obviously they got a quarterback mess. Their third string quarterback now has to come in, possibly to start on Sunday. So that gives sort of an advantage now to the Indianapolis Colts, but just a slight advantage. So no question, this game is a huge toss-up here. Huge toss-up. But I'm kind of leaning towards the Colts in this game because, look, I know Matt Hasselbeck is kind of hurt a little bit here, but I think because of Indy's offense, they're a little bit more better than Houston's offense, even though Houston does have sort of a defense in the way things. So no question, this is expected to be a close game between these two teams, and this obviously will decide the division right here because these are the front runners. But the Jaguars in the AFC South are not that far behind them. They're only behind them by one game, so that is also going to play a huge factor in that very, very low division in that AFC South. So who wins this game? I'm gonna go with the Colts here because the offense, I kind of see the fact, because look, Houston's offense, they're dealing with their third string quarterback here. It's really, really tough for them when you're dealing with backups to see. Now, this is why I'm going to go with Indy, because of Houston's situation with their quarterback. Indy's quarterback situation is not too bad because, like I said, we don't know. Look, if the Colts can win the division, let's say, I mean, who's to say we'll see Andrew Luck in the playoffs? But I'm getting far too ahead of myself on that. But for this game here, I like Houston. I like the Colts in this game. Because their offense seems more intact than Houston's is, even though Houston's got a better defense. But I think if Houston's not scoring points here, I mean, they basically were flat against the Patriots last Sunday, and I see no reason why the Colts should bounce back here. I'm going to pick the Colts over the Texans. Key game number 2, the Bills at the Redskins. The current odds in this game, that they have it, the lines are even for the moment. They're like I said, like in my first key game pick, there will probably be a favorite by the end of the week. But for the time being, this is going to be lines are even for both of these two teams. Now, Buffalo shot themselves in the foot last week, losing, and really losing to the Eagles, so that doesn't help them one bit, especially when they're still in the hunt. But now, when it comes down to it, now this is a game they desperately need to have in order to keep their hopes alive for the postseason. But the way that with the Bills' record right now, at the moment right now, it's still kind of a long shot when you need other teams to lose, especially when you have the Chiefs and the Jets currently at 8-5. So it's tough to say what will happen with the Bills and that. But the only reason why I'm saying this is a key game, not only for the Bills to try to stay alive, but for the Redskins, because they're in first place in a sort of a three-way tie in that very pitiful NFC East division. Both teams are evenly matched, even though Washington kind of does have a better offense than the Bills. So it's really a tough one to pick here in terms of what to expect out of these two teams. The game is in Washington, and that kind of does favor the Redskins a little bit, but it's a very tough pick here because, these two teams are sort of evenly matched. Who wins here? Very, very tough pick here. But I will say the Redskins. The Redskins, they're trying to keep their hopes alive, and they had a big win last week against the Bears, which was expected. I knew the Bears would be in big trouble as soon as, because Washington is kind of had a sort of a better team than Chicago did. But now for this game, Buffalo's defense is still pretty good, but their offense is still a question. Fred Taylor is not throwing the ball very well. They're not running. LaShawn McCoy, even though last week he had a good day of rushing, but their defense just was a big factor last week in their loss. So this is one of the reasons why I don't know if they can do well against the Redskins. Now, the Redskins are not a strong team, but I will pick the Redskins in this game because I think they have a lot more riding on than the Bills do, because really there's going to be no wild card coming out of the NFC East. So this is why I'm going to go with the Redskins here. Redskins over the Bills. Key game number 3. It is the Broncos at the Steelers. A big one here. Broncos in terms of playoff position. Look, they pretty much have the AFC West wrapped up. There's no way I see them forfeiting the NFC West. The Chiefs, even though they're only 2 games back, but it's kind of late in the season, and it's pretty much too late for them. It's too late for them to try to catch up to Denver, even though the Chiefs are still in a good position to get a wild card spot the way things are going. But for the Broncos, this is very huge right now, because this is a game they have to win in order to stay in the top, in order to, well, actually, no. All right, let me rephrase that a little bit here. Sorry, I have a little bit of a brain fart right here. Look, the Broncos pretty much are in good shape. Pretty much they can't do no worse than the 3 seed. But for Pittsburgh, this is a must-win for them, because this is to keep within pace of the Chiefs and the Jets, which currently hold the last 2 playoff spots in the AFC Conference. And the way Pittsburgh's playing right now, they're getting their offense together, and they could be a factor. It's tough to say right now in terms of what will happen in the playoffs. But Pittsburgh needs this game more than Denver does. But for Denver, they want to keep pace with the Bengals to try to fight for at least the bye week, and at least get that 2nd seed, because pretty much, even though if somehow by miracle the Patriots do lose, they would own the tiebreaker for home field advantage because they beat them. But going into these 2 games, the Broncos offense, they really struggled against the Raiders last week, which really, I thought the Broncos would have that game in hand, and they didn't. A lot of questions now in terms of Osweiler, if he can get back on track, or will he have another pitiful game. And this is now becoming a huge, huge factor now between Denver's offense here. Pittsburgh right now, their offense is strong. Their defense is sort of a question, but I like the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. I think Denver's struggles may continue with the way the Pittsburgh's offense is playing right now, even though Denver has a strong defense. But Ben Roethlisberger does a pretty good job of tearing up defenses, as well as Brady does. So it's really going to become a really, really big factor in this game here. This is why Pittsburgh's offense is on a roll, and I see them coming out of this game to win. Pittsburgh is a 6-point favorite in this one. Should be a little bit lower, but for this, this is the current lines I have right now at the moment, as at the time of this video, and I'm gonna say the Steelers will beat the Broncos here. It will be a very close game, I will see, but I think Pittsburgh will barely come out of this the victor here. Steelers over the Broncos. And finally, key game number 4, the Arizona Cardinals against the Eagles. It is a Sunday night game, but the Cardinals are a 3.5-point favorite in this one. Now, obviously, Philly's fighting for their playoff lives here. In other words, the NFC East division, they're in a 3-way tie with them and the Giants and the Redskins. Arizona, look, they're as good as playing football as they've ever been as a franchise, and they are going to, and their offense really, I don't see them struggling in this game. The way things are going for this Cardinal team, they just simply can't do wrong here. The Eagles right now, even though they barely got a victory against the Bills, they will need a lot more to beat the Cardinals here, because the Cardinals offense is good. Cardinals defense is a little bit shaky, but this is where the Eagles are going to have to try to attack what the Cardinals defense weaknesses are. And it's hard to say. It's hard to say what are their weaknesses. It seems to me they're playing very well. They're the number 2 seed at the moment, and Carson Palmer cannot be playing as in a high level as he's ever been in his career. It's to Tough. It's not that much of a tough pick here, but it is a key game for Philadelphia because of the NFC East. But for the Cardinals, is because of the second seed. The Packers are not that far behind, even though they're only 2 games back. But this is you want to stay in good position here. So who wins this game on Sunday night? I'm going to go with the Cardinals here. The Eagles will have to find a way to attack the Cardinals defense, and they're going to have to find a way to counter their offense. And Eagles defense isn't all that good either, even though the Giants defense technically out of that division is the worst. But the Eagles have to rely a lot on their fast-paced offense here, and to keep Arizona's defense on the field for such a long time. Will this game be close? There's a chance it might be close, but I see Arizona winning this game by 10. No question about it. I like the Cardinals in this one. Cardinals over the Eagles. All right, that wraps up my picks for week number 15 as we're getting close to Christmas and New Year's. And like I said, stay tuned for in week 17 for my special edition video when it's all about the playoff picture and only the games that I consider keys here that could decide some divisions and whatnots. Okay, go to thesportblog.blogspot.com for all of my week 15 picks. And until then, I'll see you all next week when I talk about my picks for week number 16. Until then, take care and enjoy your football weekend.